Welcome to the Richard Sherman Podcast. Hit that sub button if you're new. We're here to give you great NFL content. Please tune in. You got to give your boys a lot of love. You know, they played a very physical brand of football. I know everybody expected it to be a bloodbath and Detroit to impose their will, and San Francisco had other plans. They did it without Trent Williams, without Christian McCaffrey, and they were able to be effective. You know, Isaac Garindo caught some passes out of the backfield, did a really good job. Purdy throws for 377 yards. Did throw the 2 interceptions to Kerby Joseph, who is making his late surge for Defensive Player of the Year. You got to give him some consideration. 9 interceptions and 2 critical interceptions in the fourth quarter of this ball game. Really great plays coming downhill. Obviously, it was film study. The guy understood the assignment, understood where Brock Purdy was going with the football, baited him into it, took the ball away. I'd love to hear him talk about that play because it really looked like he understood what was going on right there. The first one was a bit of an overthrow. He took advantage of it, but the second one was something that he saw on tape. He read the formation, he read the personnel, read the play, and he made a huge play in the ball game, which ended up sealing it. Now, on the other side, San Francisco 49ers defense, you know, they played a solid football game. Nicholas John Bosa gets 2 sacks. They showed a lot of pride out there. They didn't give up. They didn't fold it in. But Jared Goff, those interceptions, short field, he's going to find a way to get it done. He's going to find a way to execute and score. But Jake Moody got to go. Jake Moody has to go at this point. Now, no fans, are so sensitive because we're in a day and age where everybody gets a participation trophy, and no, you don't talk bad about anybody, but you got to do your job. And at the end of the day, this team loses the game by 6 points. He misses 2 field goals in a PAT. You missed 2 field goals in a PAT. Again, this is a business where you have to execute, especially at that position, and he has not done it at a high enough tilt. And I understand he was drafted and all this, had all this acclaim. The Detroit Lions found their kicker in a brick shop last year. They found him. He was working in a brick shop, doing a heck of a job. Jake Bates. No offense to him. No shots at him, but he's doing a phenomenal job. You can find a kicker literally anywhere. And so I think they've done the best they could to hold on to him and try to make it work and try to develop him, but it's time to let it go. It's time for him to get a fresh start. Maybe he'll do better somewhere else, but he cannot kick another kick for the San Francisco 49ers. If he does, you're doing a disservice to this team, and you can see the frustration building with Kyle Shanahan because he doesn't even think their kicks are going to go in because they haven't. They haven't been going in, whether it's close, whether it's a deep kick, whether it's a 30-yarder, whether it's a 40-yarder. The kid has no confidence. He didn't even have confidence in the onside kick. So I just think it's time to let him go. I think you do it now and let him go find another home this offseason and figure that out. Bring some kickers in. Let them spend the offseason battling. You bring 2 or 3 of them in. Let them battle it out, and find you a guy that can be consistent and at least make 85, 90% of his kicks.
Well, Richard, this is going to be a key offseason for the San Francisco 49ers. Eliminated from playoff contention, obviously. They face some key questions. Let's start with Deebo Samuel. I know you got a tremendous amount of respect for him. He's a dog. He plays multiple positions for this team and is obviously beyond just a wideout for him. We didn't see him run the ball as much as he did in years past, and I just wonder if maybe, the 49ers might look to move on from him this offseason. Do you think there's a realistic shot at that facing the cap restraints that they are right now as a franchise?
I'm not sure. I think they're loyal to the guys that they drafted, the guys that they've developed, and they have relationships with. I think they more likely move on to guys that they picked up in free agency and look to restructure that way before they go to the homebred guys, the guys that they, drafted out of college, the guy that's been there through multiple Super Bowls and played really at a high level for them in years past and just hasn't, it just hasn't worked out this season. So I doubt they go to him first. I think they make a lot of other moves before they go to Deebo Samuel. And even at that point, I think they talk about a restructure before they talk about cut. But you never know. I'm not in the office. I'm not with the front office. I don't talk to John Lynch about these kind of moves. We talk about Stanford football and things like that and have some really good conversations conversations, but I don't talk to him about what moves they're making with personnel. Ricky Purcell had one of his best games, 8 catches for 141 yards and a touchdown. He looked really good, starting to come into his own. George Kittle continues to be a menace on the field, 8 catches for 112 yards, continues to be one of the best tight ends in the National Football League. I expect him to get a Pro Bowl berth this year. But let's go back to the other side, to your Detroit Lions. I mean, Kerby Joseph having an All-Pro year. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a really, really solid game. 8 catches for 60 yards, and obviously the touchdown on what looked like a coverage bust. Jameson Williams had 5 catches, 77 yards, 1 touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, 18 rushes for 117 yards and 1 touchdown, and it didn't even look that hard for him. It looks like an easy game. He's always churning his legs, getting extra yards after contact. You saw that on a number of plays where there was one play he was stopped 4 or 5 yards in the backfield, cut back all the way across the field, made a positive play out of it. That's the difference he can make. Now you're talking about getting David Montgomery back potentially for next week or the playoffs, depending on, if they get the bye week. It seems like perfect timing. A fresh David Montgomery coming back right in time for a divisional playoff game would be excellent for this team. And you got to give them a lot of credit. I know you're low on the defense right now, but they're winning games with mismatched pieces. They're having some fun. The hook and lateral play was a really cool play. You rarely ever see that in National Football League, and Jameson Williams did a great job taking it and getting up out of there. It was cool to see. It's cool to see the fun that they're having in Detroit.
Well, you got to give a lot of credit to Jameson Williams. This is a guy that, I mean, he's gone through it here the first couple of years in Detroit, getting suspended for the gambling issue, obviously tearing his ACL coming out of Alabama. There was some off-field stuff that went on locally here, and, he's taken flags for unnecessary roughness early in the Chicago game. It's like, come on, man. Like, we got to get together. And you're starting to see the maturation of Jameson Williams. This guy being such a high draft pick as he was and coming from Alabama, the expectations for him were to be like Chris Olave, be like Garrett Wilson. It's just taking him more time. And what you see with him is an absolute burner, but you can see that route tree start to develop with him. And they talked about it on the broadcast. Jameson Williams become a hell of a lot more sure-handed, and you can see Jared Goff trust him a lot more as well. When you put him and you get this Detroit Lions offense fully humming and you get David Montgomery back, this is going to be what they're going to have to lean on if they want to do damage in this playoffs. We saw it tonight. The defense can be an area of concern. The bright spot being Kerby Joseph, and shout out to Kerby Joseph. He's our player in prime time, brought to you by our friends and partner over at Breitling. Richard, Kerby Joseph deserves the Honolulu Blue Breitling that I got on. No question after a performance like this. He's got to keep it going. He's got to elevate his game, continue to elevate this defense's game as they go into Week 18 in a must-win scenario against the Minnesota Vikings.